Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast. It's been a while, and I'm sorry, but this time I'm going to be talking about, well, Blake 7. You're going to forgive me that one, aren't you? Next time, of course, I promise I'll talk about the Time War box set number 1, if I can figure out what to say at all, without giving away too many spoilers. Now this time, it's definitely Blake 7. I mean, let's face it, November's a hectic month to begin with. We've got the new 10th Doctor box set, that's on with Rose, so really this should be set number 1, not number 2, because number 1 was last. Doesn't matter. We've also got Survivors coming, and we all know how much I love that. I've not got round to reviewing The Prisoner yet. Well, I've not got round to uploading the review of that. So yeah, it's a busy month all round. And of course we've got the main range, which, take my word for it, is fabulous. No, this time we've got to talk about Spoils of War, because there's been another Blake 7 box set since then. We've got Crossfire Part 1, which I'll be reviewing in a few weeks' time. But bear with me, please bear with me. I don't want to use this as an excuse, but let's just say I've had a funeral to attend and we've been having work done on the house. So that, combined with the UFO cast, hasn't really left me with a lot of spare time. And of course, I've been working on Jane of the Air, a rather nice little alternative reality/steampunk story, which I'm sure you'll all be buying in your thousands, and thus save me from the other thing which has been taking up all of my time, which is looking for a job. If anyone knows of any jobs in or around Bradford, Halifax, Huddersfield kind of area, please give me an email. You know you want to. There's not a lot of call for someone who just rambles insanely, but you never know. You might know something. You might email me and save my bacon. But that's beside the point. You're not interested in all that nonsense, are you? What you're actually interested in is my thoughts on Blake 7.
8 out of 10 listeners who expressed a preference say they prefer the Tin Dog podcast.
We certainly do over here at Staggering Stories.
.net.
The problem with modern Blake 7 is that we're losing cast members. Let's face it, any story set in Season 1 and 2 that doesn't have Blake in it is going to be, well, we're going to be left feeling slightly short-changed. Luckily, we still have Season 3 to play with, because apparently, and nobody knows the actual truth about this, there is a small issue with some of the things used in Series 4. Now, obviously, I don't want to give you spoilers if it's possible to spoil something from 1981, but there is a whole change in spaceship, a whole change in direction. And yes, most of the cast's there. But then when you've got Series 3, you've got a Dana-shaped problem. And the Dana-shaped problem is the original actress doesn't really want to play ball. Perfectly nice, perfectly decent thoughts, perfectly decent approach. But let's face it, Blake 7 at its core is the original cast. You've got your Serverlands, you've got your Avons, you've got your Villas, you've got your Calais. Yeah. And as time goes by, that's perfectly fine. But as we're losing Blake, we have to live in Series 3 for a bit. And so we have our new series of Blake 7s. Now, we all know that Paul Darrow's not been well. But from a purely selfish point of view, his voice is completely unaffected by his illness. He still sounds as marvellously villainous and evil and manipulative as ever. And to be fair, all of the performances here are great. So, Dana, we've got Yasmin Bannerman. Yes, you know that name. It's rung a bell, hasn't it? She was in those lovely novel adaptations from Big Finish. You know, the Seventh Doctor ones. With Chris Quedge. Yes, there you go. That's it. You've remembered now, haven't you? She does a perfectly good replacement role. She's making it her own while not betraying any of the original thoughts. It's great. In fact, this is a collection of 4 cracking stories. Obviously, just like when Blake was replaced in the TV series, we've got Stephen Pacey, who is just a great voice. Underrated, but he's just everywhere. Everything you've ever heard, you'll hear a bit of Stephen Pacey turning up. Jacqueline Pearce, of course, is going to be doing a lovely turn as Servalan at some point. And then you've got lots of other people. I mean, let's face it, Alistair Locke's Zen and Aurak. I can't actually imagine what Aurak would sound like without this. I've heard so many of the audios. He's just nailed it. And, of course, lots and lots of other people. Now, this series is produced by John Ainsworth, who, let's face it, had a lot of tidying up to do. He had to work out where he could set this, who he could get in. All of the stories needed to be written and brought together. All after the loss of Rog. But you know what? We're feeling the loss of Rog. These people had to deal with the absence of their friend in real life. So how hard must that be? Yes, it becoming Avon's 7 is pretty impressive, and that's the Avon subplot of story number 1. You've got Avon left on board ship with Aurak. A dangerous thing. Do you really leave someone that sinister with the keys to your escape vehicle? But yeah, he's right. He does need them around. So, what have we got? We've got 4 stories. We've got Liberation by Steve Lyons, Outpost by Christopher Cooper, Close Enough, Sophia McDougall, and Solus by George Mann. Yes, I know, George Mann. All directed by John Ainsworth, which gives a lovely through feel to the whole thing. It's a great boxed set. If you liked Blake 7, you've probably already bought this. But let's face it, you may not have the cash. Well, it's well worth it. It's a lovely step back into Blake 7 for all of us. I am grateful for it. I truly am. I'm feeling that it's just, well, not business as usual, because it's still season 3, but it's definitely more of the same, let's put it that way. Story number 1. Well, here's the synopsis. In the aftermath of the Galactic War, everything has changed for Blake's former associates. Having lost their leader, they are forced to work with new allies, people they can't trust, and that might just get them killed. You see, they're rescuing someone, they're looking for people who we know as an audience may or may not come back. But that's because we've got the 2020 hindsight. Even as an audience then, you were thinking, oh, someone's going to turn up and save the day. We're going to see person X. You're also getting to grips with the new people. They're just getting to know each other. Yes, Avon's worked with all of them individually, but as a crew, they're not cohesive. They're not trustworthy. Let's face it, they're never going to be trustworthy, but you know what I mean. It feels like slipping on a pair of old gloves in the middle of a war zone after a galactic war when everything is just chaos. There are villains and creatures all willing to step into the place left by the Federation, and it's simply marvellous. Outpost, Christopher Cooper. Tarrant and Vila are on a mission to an abandoned outpost, Sylvan 410B, when a Federation taskforce attacks. The wary crewmates must learn to work together if they stand any chance of staying alive. This is where Vila's character really comes to the fore. We're getting to see a lot of interaction, and we're getting to see a lot of the stuff that was just implied on TV. It fits perfectly. Number 3, however, is Close Enough. Now, this is one of those stories where you let it wash over you and you enjoy it, but then later on you go, actually, that's had an effect on me. I've remembered that. It's something that kind of nudges at the back of your head. It makes you go, yeah, that's a decent story. Yes, I know there's the old Star Trek Next Generation thing where it was like, oh, look, it's an alien episode, or it's a mind episode, or it's a holodeck episode, and you would just do that. This would definitely be a mind episode. Just like the last part of this, it definitely makes use of Callie's powers, which, to be fair, were largely ignored on TV. Have you got a psychic character? Yep, go and stand over there. Doing what? Yep, just stand over there until we need you. That's how it felt. Not here. Not on audio. Callie's used properly. And we get to experience the psychic powers of other crew members in a glorious piece of acting. Oh, such acting. Which brings us to part 4. When the Liberator responds to a distress call from Solus Research Center, Avon is hoping to find something valuable he can salvage. Instead, he finds only one survivor amongst the wreckage, President Servalan. Oh, Jacqueline Pierce, you're just so evil. However, I must say, after listening to the Time War box set, Servalan is so second-rate on the evil front. Who's more evil, the Cardinal or Servalan? There's only one way to find out. Trust me, there really is. And of course, here we're presented with something incredibly good. It's a great story and something that you're just surprised wasn't on TV. It just works, and it's practically a bottle episode. The whole thing takes place on board the ship, and you know what? You're just happy about that. A storming box set, a great return to Blake 7, and as far as I'm concerned, everything's back to normal. So welcome to Season 3. I'm hoping we're all going to love it. There's another box set, hot on its heels, and we're all going to be very happy. So until next time, when I'll probably be talking about Doctor Who, be seeing you.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions. Blake 7, The Spoils of War.
So this is what freedom looks like.
No, not freedom. This is anarchy.
You may have to remind me of the difference.
Why are we doing this, Dana? Jenna isn't here. She wasn't ever here, and this isn't our fight.
Against the Federation. I thought I was joining a band of revolutionaries. Well, here it is. Your revolution, Vila. This is what Blake was working towards, and you, from the moment you threw your lot in with him.
Attention unauthorized intruders. This station is now under Federation control.
What is it you hate so much about the Federation?
Are you serious?
I want to understand. It provides for its people, creates work, maintains law and order. At least it did.
There are better ways of doing that without using an iron fist.
You can hear this, Callie?
I can hear you. Yes.
Get out of my head.
I'm not in your head. You're in mine.
Vila Restal.
Yes?
It's been far too long, my sweetness. Oh.
Hello, Kravis.
Weapons ready. We don't know who or what might be waiting for us behind that door.
Brace yourselves!
You!
I should have guessed.
Big Finish. We love stories.
Not exactly the White Knight I'd imagined, but I suppose you'll have to do.
That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.